I really didn't want to make this video, but I was sort of in disbelief that this guy dug himself an even deeper hole than he was already in. But for those of you that were fortunate enough to be doing something valuable and useful with your life yesterday that you didn't see this tech Twitter drama, I made a whole video about this guy yesterday who, quite frankly, made a pretty dumb mistake. He decided to shoot out a bunch of cold DMs to people asking them to do a, quote, take-home assignment that he didn't even know how to do. And not only was this just sent to random people, but he also ended it by saying, send me a demo recording once you're done. You have 48 hours max. I won't reply to questions. And it turns out the person that sent it was this guy named Michael Beer from an AI agent coding house called Cracked Devs. And basically the entire situation was really sketchy. The dude on the website for Cracked Devs talks about how he exited a company, but if you go to his LinkedIn profile, it said he was working at Meta when the company eventually sold, even though he was a, quote, founding engineer there. Not to mention he has two different LinkedIn profiles, and while he did respond to my tweet, he never actually clarified what this was all about. So anyways, a lot of people on Twitter put two and two together. You have some really sketchy founder behavior, plus a really scammy sounding DM, which is asking developers that they've never met before to do this whole coding assignment without them understanding the basics of the coding assignment themselves, with extremely specific requirements that definitely looks like something a real client of theirs might ask for. When you combine all these details together, people got pretty sketched out about the whole situation. And something I forgot to include in yesterday's video was that they did reach out to Cheyenne, the guy that initially posted the DM that got sent to him, begging for him to take the actual post down. And when they pleaded to Shay to try and get the post taken down, Shay's response was to actually include their pleas in the post itself, which I found pretty funny. Michael from Crack Devs, I can promise you we pay all of our devs and don't use this as free work. I can show you all the proof of salaries. I completely understand that you thought it was a scam and did what you thought is the right thing and post about it. But the reality is it's not, so now the post is misleading. Now look, this is just the tip of the icebergs when it comes to the weird things they have said after this whole fiasco, which we are going to get into. But the mind-boggling part of this to me is that they weren't trying to get it taken down because it was kind of like an asshole move. It was randomly sent to him and he had no actual context of who these people were, or even the really weird you have 48 hours max, I won't reply to questions thing. Like, can you imagine you're applying for a job and this is the type of message you get back from the person that's trying to hire you? The person who will eventually become your boss is saying you have 48 hours max, I won't reply to questions. I don't know, maybe addressing some of that type of behavior might have been like wise to do, but no, instead they zero in on letting them know that, hey, listen, we weren't trying to source out free work with this. So yeah, this is misleading. You can take it down now. Thank you. And I guess once they realized he wasn't going to take it down, they initially posted two different apologies, one of which they deleted and reposted a new one, omitting a single sentence just 4 minutes later. And the TLDR of this is they're like, yeah, you know, we sent this in a rush. And then the deleted line, which says this message was also intended for those who we were already talking to, but due to a miscommunication, it was sent to people with no context. And I guess that part got deleted because it was too easy to call out as being false. But honestly, if you ask me, I think this whole apology is kind of false. And I thought that was where the situation ended. They already dug themselves in a deep enough hole. The apology felt half-assed and almost like it was written by AI to some degree. And I thought it was going to be another thing on Tech Twitter Tuesday that we forget about in a month from now. But just when I thought it couldn't get any crazier, I get this Twitter notification where Michael Beer says, cool video, in response to me posting my video link. And then he says my response, where he links to a post that he made on his personal page. And it's worth noting that he posts these type of videos a lot on Twitter and they're quite successful. For example, here's another video he posted a couple days ago where he said he hacked Calendly to schedule meetings with a ton of different investors. And the signature here is the CapCut looking captions that he has at the bottom of all of these. Anyways, here was his response.
Hey, my name is Michael and I made the world's worst jobs post, resulting in me getting millions of haters.
Right off the bat, he calls it a jobs post when that's clearly not what this is. This was a take-home assessment that he was sending to random people. This does not qualify as like a job posting.
I wanted to find the best devs for my team, so I thought, let me send out a hackathon assignment because it's the best way to tell if someone can code or not.
Again, we're sort of just moving what actually happened farther and farther away from reality. Now he's calling it a hackathon assessment. Now call me crazy. I've only been to maybe 10 hackathons and they were all like over 8 years ago. But every time I've gone to a hackathon, usually you're the one that decides on what you want to build. You don't get someone sending you a 9-part checklist with the exact requirements that they want you to hit within your project, some half-assed thoughts about how they think the problem should be solved, a 48-hour deadline, and the grand finale, which is was him saying, I won't respond to questions. I don't know what kind of hackathons they have over there in the UK, so call me crazy. Maybe I'm completely out of touch with the European meta. But I think skirting around the issue, calling it a job posting and then a hackathon assignment just seems a bit kind of dishonest and feels like a cheap method to try and distance yourself from what actually is going on here.
And I also wanted someone that would build fast. So I said, you have 48 hours max. Finally, I wanted someone with high agency that could think for themselves. So I said, I won't reply to questions. And I sent it to my employee to blast around.
So apparently the 48 hours max and the I won't respond to any questions thing was just a big play to try and find the right person. And I guess that kind of makes sense. Whenever I've hired engineers in the past, I always try to optimize for people who, when I tell them to do something, they don't have any questions. They won't try and negotiate out of the timeline regardless of what my ask is. And that's because when I hire people, I like to feel like I'm the king. And I can't fault Michael for feeling the same way. He also mentioned that this was right before he went to bed, so he gave it to one of his employees to quote blast around. And you know, this is all kind of starting to make sense because he doesn't like employees that could ever question him on anything, and he likes things done in a timely manner. So it only makes sense that when his employee got this crazy half-written message that he didn't look twice at it and just sent it off to a bunch of different people on Twitter. I think that is probably the most poetic part of this entire story, if you ask me.
I went to sleep thinking that I cooked. When I woke up, I thought my DMs would be full of submissions. But in fact, they were just full of death threats.
So when he went to bed, he said he thought he cooked. And I'll be real with you, something did get cooked. It just turns out he wasn't the chef. And again, he even mentions that he expected his DMs to be full of submissions. Like, my guy, I don't know who you thought your employee was going to be DMing this to, that you were going to get a response and a good 8 hours of sleep. But it is kind of mind-blowing to me to believe that people like this exist in the tech world. It kind of feels like he's one of those happy-go-lucky tech guys that ends up in the right position at the right time. And then somehow you find yourself working under him and he wants everything done his way, yet he has no idea about how anything works in the first place. Like some kind of weird idealistic manager from hell who believes he can code. And I'm not saying he can't code. I'm just saying if you were giving somebody a take-home assignment that involved getting data from YouTube and Instagram, you would think you would do a bit of research like, does Instagram or YouTube have an API that they could use before sending it to the candidate, instead of saying something like, you should probs think about web scraping, as I doubt there are official APIs for these. And yeah, I do not support sending anyone death threats, and I don't think he should have gotten them. And if you are someone that sends people death threats, I think you are definitely a lot worse than any tech Twitter bro.
So I re-looked at the post and realized how dumb I was for sending it. I tried to plead my defense. I got blocked. It was too late. My face was all over the internet. At the front of the coding Reddits, numerous expose YouTube videos directly about me, and this viral post on X.
I love how the recounting of this story is as if we're reading the spark notes of a book, except the spark notes is from the perspective of a third character, despite the fact that he's like the antagonist in all of this. Like him pleading his case, number one, was him DMing Shay and saying, hey, we pay our employees, which is sort of far detached from what everyone was sort of complaining about in the first place. But yeah, the way he says everything really makes me think that all this LinkedIn, Twitter marketing brain rot has gotten to him. He's recounting it in almost perfect LinkedIn speak. Like I could see this popping up on my LinkedIn feed and liking it without even realizing that I read the post in the first place. It just has a way of hypnotizing you in some weird way that psychologists have yet to figure out.
On a more serious note, obviously I wouldn't take anyone's code for free. That's why I specifically asked for a video and not for them to send me the code.
Okay, see, at first glance, that kind of makes sense, but then you realize even if somebody did send him a code, the guy who couldn't even do the research on whether or not YouTube and Instagram had an API, what was he going to do if he got 100 submissions? Like, go through every single person's code? It only makes sense to ask for a video or some type of demo before diving into the code. There's no world where you would manually go through 100 submissions worth of code in the first place, let alone if you don't even understand how to do the project yourself. So again, it feels like nothing real is actually being addressed here, just a very one-sided retelling of the story in a brain-rotty way.
Although I do understand now that things like this actually happen where people get free work, so I can understand why this dude thought that I was trying to get free work out of someone. Hopefully you can see it for the dumb mistake it was, and I didn't have any bad intentions doing this. One last thing, I'm looking for crack devs. If you're interested, complete this assignment. You have 48 hours. No further questions.
All right, at the end, he does take a bit of accountability here, and I sort of like the cheeky way that he ended the post. A warm callback to his signature catchphrase, the likes of which would turn any stone-cold killer's heart into solid gold. But the problem is, I don't think he was joking. Like, I think him saying it was a joke, but if you look at the comments, somebody said, I literally see nothing wrong with a contest-based hiring method. People are just lazy. And he said, yup, I'ma keep doing it. I don't give a fuck. Like, am I going crazy? Am I the only one that like sees this and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Bro literally just had a 1-minute apology video talking about how he knows people can get exploited on these types of coding assignments, refusing to even call it a coding assignment, and then saying it was a dumb mistake. And then 22 hours later responds to a comment saying, yep, I'm gonna keep doing it. I don't give a fuck. Where are we? Not a day goes by where my mind isn't boggled by the shit I see on Twitter and LinkedIn. I don't know if I'm the one that's misunderstanding this or not, but I don't think I am. And I think this guy's just like a really scummy, like Twitter tech marketer guy. Like between the original message, the deleting the line in his apology that was just blatantly a lie, apparently, the double LinkedIn thing and the flexing about being a founding member of Helio, even though apparently he wasn't even working there when they sold, the calling it the worst job post and then a hackathon assignment instead of just calling it a coding assessment to hire somebody. And then finally backtracking his apology less than 24 hours later and saying that he's going to keep doing it. This shit's just crazy. And I know we're all going to forget about it in like a week from now. But while it is here and it is fresh, I'm just going to take the rest of the day to sit here and ponder about the universe that we live in and how we ever got to this timeline. Anyways, if you see something interesting on Twitter like this, feel free to tag me. And if you want to talk about stuff like that, feel free to join our Discord. Link is in the description. I'll see you guys in the next video.